All right, hi, welcome. We're going to talk about a couple of fall gardening tips here. It's October in Tahoe, and it's time to get our fall planting chores done before the snow flies. We're going to trim up a little meadow pot that I like to keep with a variety of different type of meadow plants, and then we're going to plant some daffodil bulbs, and we're going to learn a little bit about bulbs and what we need in order to make those survive until the spring. Join me. All right, so first things first is our container. So this is like a meadow container, and in here I have a variety of like meadow flowers. I use these stakes because they get like pretty leggy in the summertime, and these kind of help keep the plants upright and keeps everybody blooming and growing in the right direction. So I highly recommend staking them because they got really tall this year. And although these are still blooming, most of it's gone to seed. We've had a couple of hard frosts, so it's time for this guy to go to bed. And it's super easy. You just take your clippers and you go down to the base here and you just start hacking away at it and get all of the stems. Pretty easy. I started this pot from seed this spring. I'm really excited to see it over winter. I think it's going to be full of seeds. And I also think in the springtime, I'm going to have lots of sprouts in this, and I'll have to thin it out come springtime so I can get lots of beautiful plants in here. This has been blooming for me for several months, so it's all good. And so I'm literally just going to take this guy. So I moisten the soil here because you essentially want to have your soil be really wet, because when the frost comes, if it's wet, it's going to stay 32 degrees. If your soil is dry, it could get colder than 32 degrees and kill whatever seeds or plants you kind of have going on in your soil. So when you're trying to get stuff to overwinter, it's super important that you keep your soil moist. And then I'm just going to kind of hack this guy up a bit to kind of make it a little bit more mulchy. Essentially, this is just going to get a natural way to get all the seeds that are already present in this back in here so I can make sure everything propagates. And also what it's doing is this material is just going to go right back into the soil, and it's gonna make a nice little blanket for it, because you're trying to keep the soil in the container as close to 32 degrees as you possibly can. So the easiest way to do that is via mulch. You could also use straw, or I wouldn't advise using grass clippings, but you know, this kind of keeps it all cyclical, and I think it helps keep the seeds kind of keeps it all in one spot. And you just kind of push it in there. And this guy is ready for winter. Shoot. Okay, so we're going to plant some bulbs, and fall is perfect time to plant some bulbs. Not all bulbs are fall, but right now we've got some crocus bulbs. I love these because they're the first comer ups of spring, and we have narcissus bulbs of several different kinds and sizes. We've got a couple of bigger ones and a couple of smaller ones, and a nice little variety that we're going to plant throughout the yard today. And the great thing about daffodils, aka narcissus, is that they're poisonous to most of the creatures that really inhabit the Tahoe area. So your chances of these coming up in the spring are very high. The only thing is squirrels sometimes just dig things up to dig things up. I've seen that happen, but your chances are better to get this guy going. And the thing you want to remember about this bulb is this part on the bottom with these little bits. These are roots. This is the top. So you want to make sure when you put it in the ground that this guy is on the bottom and then the pointy bit is at the top. And you want to make sure when you pick out the bulb, it's nice and dense. It's got some nice heaviness to it. Sometimes they feel kind of light and airy. That's a sign of rot or mold. So you want to make sure it has some heft to it. And then the rule of thumb when planting these is you want to plant them 3 times the depth of the diameter of the bulb. So we'll plant one right over here. So you just kind of go in there, and you want to start with moist soil. If it's really dry, a lot of times, you know, we're not going to have a lot of success because this bulb needs to stay at 32 degrees. course, it's Tahoe, so there's
a rock.
amount of rocks in here. And I did recently come through here and amend this, so I'm not going to add any more compost to it. But that's about, you want them to be pretty well underneath the surface. So like you want them to be about that deep. Say that's maybe just a little bit deeper. One more shovelful here, if I can go that far. And if you hadn't amended your soil, you'd throw a little bit of compost there at the bottom. But I was just here and amended all of this. So you just kind of throw that in there. Again, this rooted part on the bottom, and then you cover it up nice and tight. And it'll work its magic through the winter, and that'll pop up in spring.